Good morning. I'd like to call the Health Related Institutions Advisory Committee meeting to order. Thank you for being here this morning, those that were able to make it in person and those online. I'm Michael Tremonti from UT Health Science Center in Houston, and I am the committee chair. Please be advised that the meeting is being broadcast over the internet and recorded. So I'd ask all attendees to silence your cell phones. And also, since we're meeting via Zoom, please mute your connection until you're ready to speak to prevent background noise. So if we could, let's begin with the roll call. Ms. Berger?
All right. We'll begin with Dr. Chase. Are you with us? Is there a representative of Dr. Chase present?
Jim Briggs, yeah, and Dr. Chase, I think will join.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gomez Leon. Mr. Guajardo. Present. Ms. Harkey, here. Ms. Harms.
I'm here.
Great. Dr. Lang.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Mr. Lewis.
Present.
Ms. Marin Hill. Present. Dr. Morey. Mr. Mueller.
Here.
Ms. Nace. Here. Ms. Shear. Here. Mr. Tremonti.
Here.
Ms. Withers. Okay, coming back to Ms. Gomez Leon. And Dr. Morey. All right, we have 3 absent, 4 absent, and 1 represented.
Okay. Well, a quorum is present. Item 4 on the agenda, we're moving through the agenda quickly already, is approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting on August 31st. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Guajardo.
Fine. Everybody should have received copies of the minutes. I don't know if any questions or comments about the meetings, minutes. If there's not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Good.
So, okay, thank you. Back to you, Mike.
Okay. So we have Ms. Berger had sent out earlier a few handouts, one which was the varying indexes. And so I thought we could review those indexes and determine which direction we want to go. It actually was a little bit interesting from a trending standpoint, in that the medical indexes actually were at a lower rate than the general indexes over since 2019, with the US city average being an average increase of just over 4% annually, with the medical care being an increase of 2.5. So, and the way we did this previously, and what we're suggesting this go round is that we're starting with 2019 as the base year. We're looking at the growth year over year over year with the index, with the idea of the 2019 through 2023 indexes coming back to an average annual rate that we then would apply to 24, 25, 26, and 27. When we look at the percent increases over 2019, as far as the US city average, the general, we're just shy of 35% increase overall. So fairly significant increase there. Whereas The medical care index was 18.6. We've also provided both those same indexes, but a regional index for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as well as the Houston area. And while they are less in a lot of respects, or at least the Houston area is less than the US average, and the Dallas area is greater. They both, the general is still considerably more than the medical. So with that, I'd like to open it up for discussion as to, we did go the medical route last year, or last biennium. It was greater than the general. So this is sort of a reversal in that respect. So again, I'd like to open it up for comment and discussion.
Would you like me to share it to the screen?
Yes, please. As you can see on the screen, again, the US city average for the general level is 4.06. The medical care would be 2.5. The real question comes back to reasonableness, I guess. I felt really good last session about the 15% increase we had brought forward. Needless to say, boy, you really aren't going to find a better time where the press was covering inflation on a daily basis that maybe it would garner some attention. However, as you are well aware, we didn't have any success. So in some respects, I would think putting 35% out there is some sort of fruitless, but that's my take. I also think there's a lot to be inconsistent in approach. So,
Mike, can I ask
Yes.
a question? What about a blend between the two to get us some? Is that an option? Because I don't know that 18% is. I'm seeing inflationary costs exceed 18%. So, is there an option to do a blend?
well, my take would sort of be that's sort of like mixing apples and oranges a bit.
Right.
And I'm sure there's somebody who understands these indexes much better than I as to what a blended rate might be or how it would be blended. I would imagine that the general rate, 34.85, incorporates the medical because it's all inclusive. But and I haven't looked at what the major components of that increase are. So
Okay, well, then my other recommendation would be go with the 34%, but do it in a stair-step approach. We've done that in the past. Maybe do 15% now and 15% later.
well, my only question would be is what are we gaining by doing that as opposed to just the 18.59% as the one data point as opposed to slicing and dicing. Again, I think we're looking at a rate that we can hang our hat on, that we feel comfortable with, that isn't going to completely turn off the legislature as being ridiculously high. And I think by you splitting it in half, you're effectively suggesting the same thing. But again, I'd like to get others' opinions on this as well.
So last year we had, for many years, we wanted to get back to the rate that was when formula funding was implemented for health related institutions, which I think was the 2001 rate. which was 11,181 or somewhere in there. And we took this approach to justify it last time. And even at that 18.59%, we are at 11,490. So from our current rate.
And I think,
For the INO.
I think even last session, when we were working through this, that was sort of our end goal, was this, using the inflationary indexes, was to get us back where we began, basically, or at least closer. So that does make a lot of sense, and that certainly, and we will run the numbers on the base rate so everybody can see what the impact of that is as well. And then once we hone that down. Any other, thoughts among the committee?
I think that there's a lot to be said for consistency. And if the prior rate that was used is the medical US City, I think that we should follow the track of consistency. If the argument can be made that it would get us back to where we would like to be, then that seems reasonable.
Okay.
It was just that balancing act of this is what we tried before. So, yeah.
I agree with everything that's been said. I think consistency is really important for the legislature. You know, they will choose to accept our rationale again, but if we continue to make it session after session, that has been a successful strategy in the past, I think, in medical.
Well, and I guess my thought there also is, it's easy to gravitate to the higher rates. I think the fact that, we made a compelling reason why we should be the medical last session. To deviate from that, I think, would be counterproductive. And if we can, hold our feet to the fire, yep, that's the reason. We recognize it's less than the general inflationary rate, but there's still an impact. And so I think there's a lot of value and consistency.
I would agree with
that.
I would agree with that approach too. It seems that consistency makes sense. And also, since we're not going for the highest possible rate, it suggests that this is a good landing place.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to noting that we considered all rates and there was a much higher one.
Very much so. I think that's we ought to get credit for something.
So with that, we are looking at I just want to make sure I'm understanding the 18.59%. The rate we would recommend is our current rate increased by 18.59%.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion to carry the 18.59 using the medical care US City average index. Do I have a second? Also second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. So another item that, as everyone is aware, the INO formula is driven by inflationary adjustments or lack thereof, and FTSEs. And so one of the things that I also shared last night with the committee was the FTSE breakdown of the various institutions. And while a number of our schools are fairly fluid in their FTSEs year over year, of course, our medical school, our dental schools, and so on are more fixed. We're either capped out or maybe where we started a medical school and we're ramping up. And needless to say, it's the medical school and the dental schools that have a pretty heavy weight and have the greatest impact. And so with that, I'd like to sort of check in with everybody to see if there are new programs we should consider in the FTSC counts or impacting the FTSC counts in 26, 27. You know, medical schools. I know Sam Houston, if I'm not mistaken, they have 330 FTSCs. I don't know if that's three years, each year being at 110. And so we could expect that to go to 440. Daniel, I know you're sitting in for Amanda. Do you know? Have lost in. Okay. So from a Dell perspective or a U of H perspective, you know, again, some of the more recent arrivals that, from a medical school standpoint, I don't know if you could provide some insight maybe as to where your expectations are from a class size standpoint. Dr. Chase?
Sorry, sure. We're going to hold this next year at about the same. You know, our goal is ultimately to double over the course of the next few years. So, you know, that will add more students to the mix. I have another question, and I apologize. You guys have scheduled all these meetings other times when I couldn't come. So this question may have been better prefaced or better raised at another one, but we also have other medical related programs that aren't included in the list, like optometry. And I just wonder about things like that, you know, if this committee is a place to consider any of the other places where there are, you know, medical programs that might or should be added to the list. So, and if that's out of order here, sorry, happy to, you know, keep that for another time.
Well, I think that's certainly something that the work group 3 should take into consideration. And that certainly will be, you know, brought forward or
Okay.
again after this session. So, so yeah, I think if you could provide those programs specifically that you want to address, I think that would be helpful.
Great, thank you.
When you mentioned that in the next few years you saw the class doubling, is your class size currently at 30?
It should be going to, I think it's 60, and the goal would be the 120.
Okay. So since we're talking 3 years out, again, we're trying to.
Yeah.
Do you see your first class year of 60 being 26, 25?
You know, I can go back and double check with the dean, but I would say the 60 is next year, but the 120 would hold within the time frame that we're looking here that we would expect to grow.
So Mike, just a reminder, the base period would be summer 2024, fall 2024, and spring 2025, correct, right?
Right.
So we're looking at enrollment during that period to provide the FTAC estimate.
Yeah.
Total enrollment.
Total enrollment.
Yeah. And of course, on the medical school level, it's FTE as opposed to FTS.
Correct.
So.
Although it's almost the same, at least for us.
Right. So, Michael, from an RGV standpoint, are y'all projecting any change in class sizes?
Talking when it was mute. Yes, sir, we are. I think total class size, we're gonna open it up. We just passed the accreditation part with LCME, so we're gonna be increasing our class size, our freshman class by at least 10% this first year. And incremental increases between now and 2031. I know that's going out pretty far, but our goal is to increase at least 10% a year.
Okay. Dr. Maury, how about Dell? Currently on mute.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Those numbers seem correct to me. We're going to be stabilized at 50, at least in the next couple of years. We're under LCME certification right now, so we want to make sure we get through that before we look at potential expansions in the next few years.
Great, thank you. I don't, from a medical school and dental perspective, I don't see UT Healthy Houston expanding class size. Is there, from a, I'd say the mature medical schools, but everybody there is somewhat capped. Is there any thoughts of expanding? Okay.
This is Rick Lang in El Paso. We committed 124, and by 2027, we expect to be 150 medical students per class. And then the dental students, obviously, we're still growing. The fourth year class just began, but that total will be 60 per class over 4 years for a total of 240.
I apologize for tossing you into the mature category, Dr. Lang. Y'all are obviously continuing to grow. We're at the forefront still. Okay, is there any other significant entries or programs that we should be considering especially in charge 3?
So I don't know if the following warrants as significant, but there is a new School of Public Health at UT Southwestern coming online.
Okay.
Very targeted enrollment increases. Our matriculating class in the fall had 51 students. About a third of those are existing MD students, so there'll be incremental increases, but just wanted to make everyone aware that those will be captured in the fall enrollment run and then updated in the spring. So maybe 100.
Lauren, UTMB?
Yeah, very similar with UTMB, that we have a new School of Public and Population Health that actually came on last fall, I believe. And so it will have, small incremental growth to it as well.
Jenny, are you online? Okay, I think Health Science Center San Antonio is also in that same category. So I did see, I saw the comment. Okay.
And UNTHSC also will be coming online with the College of Nursing in the fall of 24.
All right. Okay.
Mike, I failed to mention about podiatry. Our target goal for our freshman class is 40. So that will be increasing. So we'll see a slight increase next counting year.
Okay. So the 27 that's on that, is that one class
Yes, sir. That was the initial class, the timing of which when we opened it up, and to get, to open it up in the time that the program began, we selected 27 of the best applicants that came through. So we do anticipate that to increase.
Okay. That was fall of 22, correct?
Correct.
What's your fall of 23?
We're right at, I think, 38 students right now.
Okay.
So we're about too shy of our goal is to leave that pretty flat. I don't think that our anticipation is to grow that program any more than 40 a class.
What if okay with everybody, I'll work with Melita to sort of put up a spreadsheet out that we can send out to everybody, so you can put in your projections, so we can make sure we factor that in as we calculate the overall impact. Okay. Other items, questions, concerns related the other formulas. I thought we'd probably move fairly quick through this meeting. We have, our next meeting is scheduled for November 1st. At 10 a.m. I suggest, if everybody is comfortable, that we shift back to the virtual meetings for that. And I think a lot of the time is going to be spent in the work groups and moving those forward. I'd like to suggest, if it's okay with the group and the work group leaders, to maybe have them provide an update centrally to Melita and to me and the Kristen on where things stand, maybe mid-October. That way we can get a feel for how we do the November 1 agenda. So any other things from the folks who are online?
I have a technical question about the work group meetings. And others that may want to join work group 3. I know that the work group themselves, we have a link. I just don't know about those that are going to be joining virtual. Who else wants to join? I could get that out to them pretty quickly. I don't know how that, if we set up something central.
Yeah, I believe I have that link and I could forward it to whoever needs it.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Briggs, I see you waving, raising your hand. I'll send it to you.
okay, does everybody who is virtual have the links they need for their work group meeting? Okay. If there are no further questions or points of discussion, do I have a motion to adjourn to the work group meetings?
So moved.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, the Formula Funding Advisory Committee is adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Where's the walk